The first sign that something was about to go terribly wrong was a silence. The lobby was usually filled with low conversation, phones ringing, the soft clicking of shoes on marble. That morning, everything felt suspended, like the air itself was holding its breath. My client was halfway through explaining his retirement portfolio when the glass doors at the entrance flew open with such force that everyone turned at once. And there she was, Karen Miller, president of our neighborhood HOA, manager of our office building, self-appointed ruler of every life unfortunate enough to orbit Hayes. She didn't walk into the lobby. She marched, heels striking the floor like warning shots. Her posture was straight, her chin lifted, her eyes burning with a strange kind of excitement, the kind someone gets when they believe they're about to win a public execution. She didn't bother greeting anyone. She didn't even slow down. She came straight toward me, lifting one perfectly manicured finger and pointing it at my chest. "You're done," she announced, her voice echoing off the marble walls. "Effective immediately. Pack your things and get out of my building within the hour." The entire lobby froze. My clients went silent. The receptionist stopped typing. Even the coffee vendor behind the kiosk paused mid-pour. I felt the heat crawl up my neck, but I didn't move. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't react the way Karen expected. "I think there's been some confusion," I said calmly. Her lips twisted into a smile that held no warmth. "The only confusion is that you believed you were important enough to stay here. Now leave before I call security." 6 weeks earlier, I was just another financial advisor trying to build something steady. The job wasn't glamorous, but I love helping people plan their future. The only problem with my life was Karen. She controlled the neighborhood through the HOA, and she controlled our building as manager. That gave her power over where I parked, how I dressed, the temperature in my office, and apparently whether I deserved to earn a living. She lived for control. Cameras appeared over employees' desks. New rules were emailed almost daily. One week she fined a 70-year-old widow named Mrs. Peterson $500 because the wrong flowers were planted in her front yard. I watched that woman cry on her porch while Karen stood over her with a clipboard and a satisfied smile. 2 months ago, my uncle passed away and left me an inheritance large enough to change my life. I didn't buy cars. I didn't move. I invested. When I learned that the very building I worked in was for sale, I created a holding company, Smith Properties, and made a private offer. It was accepted almost instantly. The closing was last week. Karen didn't know. That morning, the same morning she fired me, the building legally became mine. I gathered my files, nodded politely to my clients, and said we'd reschedule. Then I walked past Karen, pulling out my phone just loudly enough for her to hear. "Hey, James, everything finalized? Perfect. Please prepare the new management notices for distribution tomorrow morning." I stopped, turned, and looked at her. Karen's face had gone completely still. The next morning I arrived before sunrise with my new property management team. Notices were placed on every floor. Effective immediately, Oakwood Professional Center is now owned by Smith Properties. All inquiries should be directed to David Williams, building manager. At 9 o'clock sharp, I watched from the surveillance room. Karen stormed up to the doors and swiped her card. Red light. She tried again. Nothing. She began pounding on the glass until the security guard approached and pointed at the notice. She read it, her face twisting with disbelief. When David unlocked the door to speak with her, she pushed past him and rushed toward her office. The key didn't fit. A small crowd gathered as she spun around, eyes wild. "Where's he?" she screamed. "Where's that nobody who thinks he can play games with me?" The elevator doors opened behind her. I stepped out. "Good morning, Karen." She laughed, a thin, shaking sound. You bought this building? You drive a 10-year-old Honda." "I prefer stability," I replied. "Smith Properties is mine. The transfer became official yesterday morning, about an hour before you fired me." Her color drained. "This is a joke," she whispered. "I'll sue you. I'll ruin you." I handed her a business card. "Our legal team already reviewed your management history, including staff complaints and security footage." She began screaming. She kicked a chair, hurled a potted plant across the lobby, and nearly hit an elderly client. She shoved the receptionist's computer onto the floor and started shouting that this was a building and everyone was fired. When security tried to escort her out, she slapped one of the guards. That was the moment the police were called. When the officers arrived, Karen barricaded herself behind the desk, screaming threats. When she tried to rush past them to get to me, they restrained her and placed her in handcuffs. The lobby went silent as she was dragged outside, still shouting my name. The following week, she stood in court charged with assault, destruction of property, trespassing, and disorderly conduct. She was sentenced to community service, ordered to pay damages, and banned from the building. The HOA board removed her as president 3 days later. When they told her, she simply sat down. For the first time since I'd ever known her, Karen Miller had nothing to say. Thank you for watching Classic Stories. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories that remind us how powerful compassion truly is.